Hi, I will present the preliminary results from the analysis on the ink of the writing tablets from Vindolanda. So Vindolanda was a Roman fort close to the Hadrian's Wall, and nowadays it is a marvelous archaeological area that can give us an insight of the daily life at the boundaries of the Roman Empire. In fact, there are lots of archaeological findings, very well preserved, including inorganics, so metals, ceramics, and glass, but also lots of organic materials. For instance, a huge collection of leather shoes. And between these organic materials, there are some particular items. Some written tablets, and the presence of the ink was recognized in 1973, despite the dark appearance of the wet and dirty remains. And they were proven through infrared images at the School of Medicine in Newcastle. So nowadays there are 1,800 postcard-sized wooden tablets, and they can be divided into two typologies. So one is the stylus tablet, which had a thin layer of wax that was scratched using the stylus pen. And then there is the largest collection of Roman writing in the Western Empire, having ink traces that were realized using a split nib pen. So the importance of this tablet is due to their contents, because beyond the military aspect, we know also something more about their social life. So the organization of celebrations, the presence of literate women, literate slaves, also children, which is a bit unexpected, I mean, that had to do their homework. And also the dimension of different cities, different places for their trades to have their supplies. This project, founded by Augmentum, has two main aims. One is the production of a conservation condition survey to improve the conservation practices, and the other one is the investigation of their manufacture, so including the wood, so if they choose, for instance, local wood, and in this case, I'm analyzing the ink, trying to differentiate between different possible sources. So I'm realizing an analytical workflow method to be applied to these specific items, and it consists of three main steps. The first one is a screening step, including imaging techniques, followed by spectroscopic and elemental analysis. So starting from broadband multispectral imaging, we have decided to take visible images for documentation with the color and brightness calibration, the infrared reflected images to improve the faded writings, and false color images to possibly highlight the presence of mixed ink. Then we enlarged the higher range with analysis in the shortwave infrared range, because it is possible to differentiate broadly between different ink typologies, for instance, if carbon or metal-based inks or vegetal colorants. So in this case, we can see from the infrared image an improvement of the legibility of the writing, and then merging it with the related visible image. After calibration, it is possible to have the false color image. And in all these tablets, there were no mixed ink. But also with the false color images, it was possible to see some particular stains, but we will see better later. While about shortwave infrared, the writing stands out even clearly, so that all these tablets are based on carbon black. So about these stains, most of them are bluish, and these stains became even darker in shortwave infrared. So using the digital microscope, we saw this bluish mineral, which is vivianite, and it is a iron phosphorus-based mineral, which can develop in some very specific conditions, including reducing atmosphere. And it's usually associated with the presence of chars coming from the environment, so from vegetal burnt remains that sometimes, unfortunately, penetrated into the wood, as we can see from the 3D image. Anyway, we have some contaminations from the environment. For instance, the presence of salt, of grains of sand, but they are stacked on the surface, unlike vivianite. So vivianite is always present in wrapped areas, but in particular in hollows, as we can see from the profile of the scanned area. Scanned line. Anyway, about writing, in the first 2 centuries in Vindolanda, there were different groups coming from different parts of Europe. So we can basically divide it into 5 periods, depending of the soldiers that were there. Anyway, we saw that through the time there was an improvement, let's say, of the writing. It became more cursive, more italics, as we can see from the left to the right. And also the ligature between the letters was increased, and some letters changed. So they became more similar to those we use nowadays. And it was possible also to see different writings, so more elegant, shaky, or sharp, but also some particular features of the specific writers. For instance, some gestures, some long lines with tails. So these are clues that can help paleographists in the identification of the writer. For instance, some writers had applied area pressure while writing, as we can see from the signs given by the split nib pen. Anyway, in general, all these writings did not have any significant thickness. About paleographic applications, so in the first tablet we can see a masculine name, which was supposed to be Vitius, so with the I, but during the analysis we realized that it was actually an E. So imagine to be known after thousands of years, but with a misspelled name. So now it's unfair, but conservation science can help also in this sense. And also we realized that there was a mistake that was actually corrected. So the writer wrote at the beginning a T, but then he added an M to correct his mistake. Anyway, we also realized that there were some tree nodes and some defects that were avoided by the writers themselves while writing. So we can presume that the tablets were not flat, not only because of their conservation state, but also because probably in their origin they were not completely flat. Then we used reflectance transformation imaging. So we obtained some interactive images by combining 72 images with flashing light at different angles to see if with the pressure of the pen it was possible to leave a sign, an indentation, but no indentation was identified in any of the tablets. So if these tablets are all based on carbon black, how can we differentiate between different sources? So we can use Raman spectroscopy, which is a well-established technique, especially to distinguish between crystalline and amorphous carbons, so all the different allotropic forms, and it was mainly used in about crystalline carbons. Anyway, we can use it also for the differentiation between amorphous carbon-based materials. For instance, cokes, chars, flame carbons, and coals, because they are actually coming from different sources. For instance, wood, animal-based materials, bituminous materials, or sedimentary rock. So that they had different heat treatments involving different chemical reactions. So it is possible to differentiate between these carbon-based sources, applying the convolution of the D and G bands. So it is possible by matching both the shape of the spectra, the maxima of their wave numbers, and the number and the shape of the different deconvoluted band. Moreover, we matched our data with the data available in the literature, but also we realized an in-house library using some references. Anyway, since the tablets are so thin, even less than 1 millimeter, they are so fragile. So that we decided to keep them in their foam housing. Anyway, it was an issue while applying Raman spectroscopy because the foam is so flexible, which is great for conservation because it follows the natural movement of the wood without inducing any specific mechanical stress. But we were not able to have a good focalization, so to have good data. So I used Raman imaging, focusing each second on the image in the point of interest, acquiring the data in the time domain. So following the temporal oscillation of the foam. So we can see from T1 and T2 that I lost the focus, but then with this method I was able to have an improved image and also improved data. So I was able to differentiate between different sources. According to the tablets that I've analyzed right now, they are mainly based on vegetal sources, but there are also a few based on soot and just some of them with animal, with bone black or ivory black. About Vivianite, we saw that there is a nucleation on the top, and then while growing, it actually induced the formation of the tablets. So about future perspectives, I will apply multivariate analysis to differentiate between not only all these different sources, but also possible eating treatments, and I'll try to match this information with the different writers to see if there is possibly a correlation between them, and also I will see, I will apply FTIR specifically for the binders to see if specific binders were related to specific carbon-based inks. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Giovanna. Do we have any questions from the audience? I will start then in that case. So it's actually to do with this, the future achievements. I think that's quite an interesting point, the correlation between sources and writers. So is that sort of trying to identify that, I don't know, something's been sent as a letter and was the ink which they used was from a certain type of source in area X, and therefore you had that correlation between it, and then the writers in Vindolanda, you know, had a certain other type of source, and therefore that's what was produced there. Is that the sort of thing that you're trying to achieve or look at, or have I got that completely wrong?
Yeah. It will be the last step, because, for instance, I saw that in the few cases in which I found Bon Black, they were military letters. So I'm wondering if the inks were realized locally, I mean by the writers themselves. For instance, there are some tablets written by women, and they used vegetal sources. So yeah, I will extend this method to more tablets. So at the end of this project, I will analyze like 80 tablets. So I think that I will gain enough information for the answer.
Yeah, to get some insight on that. No, fantastic. Any questions for Giovanna?
Thank you. Do you have a favourite letter you've read?
What?
A favourite text or a sentence or a phrase that you read?
So they are quite nice because they are like contemporary WhatsApp messages. So, for instance, there is a birthday invitation, or another guy that was sorry about his absence to this birthday, but also the request for more beer because they ran out of it. So yeah, they are very funny. I can understand Latin. I studied also Latin, so it's very nice to read them while analyzing them.
That's great, thank you.
I think often with projects like this, the science, of course, is really interesting behind it, but then the sort of cultural insight which that science gives us is really sort of which gives us that connection to the past with sort of bits like that. If there are no more questions from the audience, then I think we thank Giovanna again, and then we'll go to our next speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you.